Good evening and welcome. Welcome to tonight's public lecture, Zero Poverty, Zero Unemployment and Zero Emissions, Is It Possible in South Australia? To be delivered by Professor Mohammad Yunus. My name is Tanya Lehman and I'm the Dean of Law here at Flinders, and it's my great pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies for this evening. I extend my very warmest welcome to you all, and in particular to our distinguished guests. Member of the South Australian Legislative Council, Tammy Franks. Member of the South Australian House of Assembly, Francis Bedford. Tonight's sponsors, Peng Chu, Director, and Miroslav Kostecki, Technical Director from the STEMSEL Foundation. Kat Dunn, Chief Executive Officer, and Duncan Power, Group Chief Executive Officer from Grameen Australia. David Pearson, Executive Director, the Don Dunstan Foundation. Paul Madden, Chief Executive Officer, the Wyatt Trust. Flinders University Council members, staff, students, alumni, and welcome to you all. I would now like to introduce Uncle Lewis O'Brien, who will shortly be delivering the Welcome to Country for this special event. Uncle Lewis is probably well known to many of us. He's a Kaurna elder from Point Pearce on York Peninsula. He's long been a champion of reconciliation and has contributed much to Indigenous engagement at Flinders University as patron and elder in residence on the Indigenous Health Professional Education Advisory Committee and the Indigenous Preparation for Medicine program. Uncle Lewis has also provided valuable support to non-Indigenous students in the health sciences here at Flinders, in their efforts to understand Aboriginal concepts of wellness and how this connects to health outcomes. He has also contributed to the strategic leadership of the Office of Indigenous Strategy and Engagement, which seeks to promote Indigenous knowledge and perspectives across disciplines. In 2011, Uncle Lewis was awarded an honorary doctorate from this university in recognition of his work in reinstating Aboriginal knowledge, protocols and concepts into the cultural and political life of our nation. And Uncle Lewis is celebrating the announcement yesterday of the recognition of the Kaurna people's native title claim over metropolitan Adelaide. I now invite Uncle Lewis to welcome guests to Kaurna country.
Marawichanga, Kaurna Miana na Wangani, Mani de Bundigani Atana, Naibiriko, Mankalakala, Tandanya, Mianaku, Nature Yungandalia, Nature Yakanandalia, Padnea de Wadu. On behalf of the Kaurna people, I welcome you all to Kaurna country, and I do as ambassador of the Adelaide Plains people. My brothers, my sisters, let's walk together in harmony. Last year I decided to take up meditation. It's better than sitting around doing nothing.
Thank you very much, Uncle Lewis. This evening's format will commence with a short presentation from the President and Vice-Chancellor of Flinders University, Professor Colin Sterling, which will be followed by a 20-minute lecture by a wonderful guest speaker, the very esteemed Professor Mohammad Yunus. Following Professor Yunus' lecture, we will all have the opportunity to participate in a 30-minute question and answer session. And I'm delighted to say that that will be facilitated by Mr. Rob De Monte, Chair of the Adelaide Thinker in Residence program on social capital. Rob will be taking questions from the floor immediately after tonight's lecture, and so I encourage you all to think about the types of questions you might like to ask. It's now my very sincere pleasure to invite Vice-Chancellor Professor Colin Sterling to the lectern.
Thank you, Professor Lehman. And I too, of course, would like to start by thanking, of course, Uncle Lewis for his wonderful welcome to country, but also in paying my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Kaurna people, and to their elders, past and present. And I, of course, also would like to welcome Flinders University Council members, staff, alumni, students, and university partners, and of course, distinguished guests. I'd also like to acknowledge the event sponsors, the Don Dunstan Foundation, the Wyatt Trust, Grameen Australia, and the STEMSEL Foundation. Their support is invaluable in our mutual quest to foster a skilled global community that has the opportunity to grow through knowledge and self-determination. Now, it is only 200 and a few years since our namesake, Captain Matthew Flinders, sailed on what one imagines must have been pristine waters from Europe to map the coast of Australia and the coasts especially here in South Australia. At that time, there were some billion, estimated to be around about 1 billion people on the planet. Now, I've been on the planet for only a quarter of the time since Matthew Flinders sailed. But when I was born, there were 3.5 billion on our planet. Today, of course, it's now 7.5 billion and rising. And of course, that population growth brings pressures, many pressures. It brings pressures on supply of food, of water, energy, the materials, of course, that we require, and dealing with the enormous gap that we have between the haves in our societies and the have-nots. And especially, of course, in a world where some corporations now have greater market capitalizations than the GDPs of even some developed nations. So some captains of those industries talk of terraforming neighboring planets, providing a bolt hole for us to dash to, or for perhaps some to dash to in the future. It's a fascinating idea and it's an intriguing concept. But of course, we stand today on the perfect terraform, one that perhaps we could look after a little better. And it seems that, as probably I'm sure anyone in the room, any parent in the room, would certainly believe that we should leave the planet to our children in a better condition than we found it. Here at Flinders, this compelling need underscores much of the research being undertaken in the university and much of the work that we do through our research and through our educational programs. We know that more than 1.3 billion people today live in extreme poverty, and that poverty is not solely about the lack of income, but malnutrition, limited access to education, healthcare, social discrimination, and of course exclusion from decision-making. The work that we do includes the excellent example of our Flinders New Venture Institute, which has reinvented the way the university achieves social impact by elevating the capacity of whole networks, not just individuals, but networks, and empowering them to collaborate on solutions to the challenges of our time. For more than a decade, the university has been involved in plant breeding programs designed to relieve malnourishment and poverty and improve health in developing countries. Indeed, our researchers have discovered and developed a modified form of starch, something that aids hydration, a simple phenomenon, but one that can potentially save millions of vulnerable lives from some of the world's commonest and most deadly diseases. Our very own Justin Chalker has developed a non-toxic polymer from industrial waste, no less, that literally sucks mercury out of contaminated water and soil and is becoming a game changer in large-scale environmental cleanups. And a professor here at Flinders, Colin Raston, has launched the green chemistry movement in Australia and has patented and developed now new methodologies for purifying carbon and to help chemists innovate pharmaceuticals with fewer toxic reagents. What these innovations show is that our power to reduce poverty, eliminate waste and pollution, and build the security of our communities in a way that was previously unimagined is in fact within our grasp. And it's incumbent, I think, on our universities, the engines of innovation in our society, to educate the future architects of this change, overcome societal impotence and sometimes indifference in the face of cultural and environmental crises, and support our communities through an overdue transformation into a zero world. In this way, Professor Mohammad Yunus's 3 Zeros philosophy has immediate relevance. And I have no doubt that Professor Yunus will illuminate us and provoke us tonight with his thoughts on how to thrive in such a world. But by way of introduction, Professor Yunus is a Fulbright scholar who obtained his PhD in economics from Vanderbilt University and is famed for inventing microcredit, the lending of small amounts of money at low interest rates to new businesses in the developing world. As a social entrepreneur and economic champion, Professor Yunus has devoted his career to empowering large population groups to break out of poverty and to ensure their future through their own wealth and well-being. He served on the Global Commission of Women's Health, the Advisory Council for Sustainable Economic Development, and the UN Expert Group on Women in Finance, and is a current member of the board of the United Nations Foundation. In 1983, Professor Yunus decided that he was no longer able to be a spectator to poverty in his home country of Bangladesh, and so began that ambitious enterprise to help his countryfolk self-determine their destiny and achieve prosperity on their own terms. The enterprise, the Grameen Bank, an institution set up to provide loans and financial advice to disadvantaged sections of the community so that they could build their own sustainable businesses and elevate themselves into intergenerational hardship. The creation of the Grameen Bank was based on Professor Yunus's belief that credit was a fundamental human right. He began his enterprise by disseminating small personal loans to destitute basket weavers in Bangladesh, and the bank and later grew to become a world leader in micro-lending, the model which is now replicated in more than 100 countries across the globe. Professor Yunus's micro-lending initiative significantly advanced economic and social opportunities, especially for women and the socially disadvantaged, and Professor Yunus was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. Since then, he's received numerous national and international humanitarian awards, including the United States Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009 and the Congressional Gold Medal in 2010. It is therefore now my privilege to be able to invite Professor Mohammad Yunus, author of A World of 3 Zeros, to deliver his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm absolutely delighted to be here and listening to your introduction, generous introduction. I was remembering how I moved away from the academic environment to a non-academic environment. In a way, I was feeling I became a fugitive from the academic world because I was very disappointed and frustrated and angry at what I was teaching. I thought that didn't have any solution for people, the economics. So I was trying to see if, as a person, as a human being, I can do something to make myself useful to another person. So I brought down my ambition to a manageable level, that at least I can do something for another person. So I'm not talking about solving global problem or anything. So that's what brought me to the village next door to the university campus. So everything I did ever since, I feel I am becoming counter-academic, kind of going out. But I never could get away from it. That's the point. I started raising questions. I was doing tiny, tiny things. But those tiny things made me raise big, big questions. And I don't know whether it's a legitimate one, whether I'm doing something beyond my perspective of solving problem. So what I did, again, the frustrations was pushing me into this. Many things I did to touch people's lives one by one, not much. But I saw loan sharking in that same village, enormous amount of loan sharking. When you read about it, you can walk away because this is over. But when you meet the person who is the victim of loan shark and hear the story for tiny little money, small amount of money, and you cannot tolerate this. You feel inside of you, you feel so ugly that human being can be so cruel to each other. Bangladesh village is not a flourishing village. It's a very depressed village, poverty everywhere. Even then, within themselves, they are practicing the loan sharking. And I don't know how to solve this problem. My economics training never told me how to address the problem of loan sharking to protect people. In the entire education that I had on economics, I never had any encounter with this kind of ideas. So I don't know anything. So I was fuming in myself that how do I do that? One idea came, why don't I lend the money myself? If I lend the money, people can come to me. And that way they can avoid going to the loan sharks. And the problem of loan shark is over for that person who came. I said, okay, I can do that for a few people at least who will come to me. And then next day I started lending money, telling people, you come to me if you need money, I'll give the money, don't go to them. And in the beginning they were hesitant, they thought maybe this is another loan shark. He may do worse. So I assured them that no, that's not my idea, you can give the money back, that's all about I am worried about. I'm not worried about, you just give the money back. So they started sheepishly a little bit here, a little bit here. And when they saw really I meant it, then it became very popular. More and more people started coming to me, and I felt very good that it's what I assumed would happen is happening, that people are free from the loan sharks, and I'm protecting them by lending money. But that is the start of the whole process. So I was not planning on banking. I'm not a designer of a microcredit or anything. Just simply circumstances pushed me into doing something, and I did it, and luckily it worked. And I continued to do that, pursue that. I never gave it up. Everybody said, this is crazy, these people will never pay back. I said, they're paying back. I have no problem with that. Bank saying, no, you cannot do this, whole thing will collapse. You're wasting your money. I said, I'm wasting my money, not your money. So you don't have to worry about that. So I was very stubborn about it. And this began in 1976, right after just the famine in Bangladesh, where still the impact of the famine is everywhere, you see, just slightly coming out of the famine. Then I thought I should, as it grew, maybe I should turn into a bank. So creating a bank is not an easy thing, but I thought that's the only way to continue to work. So after lots of struggle, finally in 1983, we became a bank. And then we started expanding as much as we could, and soon we became a nationwide bank. Today we have over 9 million borrowers in Bangladesh from Grameen Bank, 97% women, so almost all of them are women. Everywhere you go, in every single village you go, there's Grameen working there. So that's a thing that what became known as microcredit is spreading everywhere. Along the way, raised many questions. Why poverty? Why they are poor? And every time I see that, I have an answer. I said, poverty is not created by the poor people. Poverty is created by the system that we built, system that we teach in our classrooms. That created the poverty. It's a very harsh way to look at it, your subject, but I became more and more firm on that. This is where the seed of poverty lies. And if you want to change the fate of poverty, then you have to go back to change the system. And in the system, one I'm confronting right away, one particular institution, banking. I said, how come? And I raised a very simple question to the bankers in Bangladesh. I said, you do things in a very strange way. You're supposed to be a bank, you're supposed to lend money, that's your job, that's your business. But you do it in a funny way. You lend money to people who already have lots of money. And you don't lend money to people who don't have money. I said, simple logic will tell you to do the other way. You lend the money to people who don't have money, and after you have done that, then you go to them. But that's not how the banking system works. And that is one root cause of poverty in the whole world. And to describe it, I'm saying that financial services is like economic oxygen. Like if you don't have oxygen, we cannot breathe. We collapse. We become incapacitated. That's exactly what happens when you don't have the financial oxygen. If you don't have that, you cannot function, you become dysfunctional, you become weak, and that's when we call they are poor. I said, when you connect them with the financial oxygen, suddenly they become alive. Everything is there. They're as good human beings as anybody else. There's nothing wrong with those human beings. Once you connect them, they become active, they become creative, they become productive, and that's what the microcredit is all about. The reason you hear about it, because this is the function it does. After 41 years of our Grameen work, microcredit work, and becoming so popular all around the world, including in the rich countries, microcredit is not just for poor countries. One of the earlier ones, the rich countries they have done is Norway, France, Germany, UK, and so on. Now we run it in the United States. We have 20 branches in the United States, bringing financial services to over 100,000 borrowers, all women, 100% women. Startup loan is about $1,500. And amazing repayment rate everywhere, near 100%, 99.9, and so on. So you can do that, but it's still banking system has not changed. Second question I raised, because of the work that I have done along the way I've been working. As I do the microcredit, I'm also seeing the other problems in the poor families. Particular thing immediately you notice is the problem of healthcare. If you're poor in health. This is synonymous, it's the same thing. So I see extreme poverty and extreme health problems going together. The children of the families I see cannot see after sun goes down. And I had no idea that that kind of thing exists. And my doctor friends told me that this is called night blindness, and it's caused by vitamin A deficiency. So what I did, I started encouraging them, because they said if they eat vegetable with vitamin A, there's lots of vegetables have vitamin A, children will gather enough vitamin A and become healthy so far as eyesight is concerned. So I started persuading the people who are in the Grameen program to eat vegetables. I see no impact, no response. So one idea I had, why don't I start bringing the seed to them? If I bring the seed, maybe they will be interested. So I created a business to sell vegetable seeds. Made them into tiny little packets with 1 penny. 1 penny, you can buy these seeds and you can grow. You can take varieties of seeds and you can grow. That grew very popular. So everywhere we go, we also, not only we do the money transactions, we also make seeds available. As Grameen Bank grew, our seed business grew. At one point, we became the largest vegetable seed seller in the country. By that time, night blindness became a history. It didn't exist anymore. You talk about night blindness today, people will not know what you're talking about. What does it mean? So that's the kind of thing. We got involved into one thing to another. And I created lots of businesses like this. I see a problem, I create a business to solve it. I wanted to avoid the charity route, because I felt if you want to solve a problem by giving charity, then you become very dependent. Charity money goes out, does a wonderful work, but money doesn't come back. So you have only one-time use of your money. So what I did, I took the objective of charity and put a business engine behind it. And now call it social business. The social business is something that you do to solve a problem. Like I did this vegetable seed business, to solve a problem, not to make money for myself. There's no intention of making a personal penny out of it. And I did everything, all the companies that created exactly for the same principle. And suddenly that money that goes into social business becomes powerful. Money goes out, solves a problem, and comes back. And you use the same money again and again and again, limitlessly. It never stops, it grows. Because you're not taking profit. You can take back the investment money, but the profit is always plowed back into the business. So it grows. And instead of searching for charity or raising money to run program, you can expand now with your own money. So that idea of social business started spreading. Then I raised the same question. Why people don't do social business? I said, that's what, again, economics taught us in the wrong way. Economics taught us that all human beings are driven by self-interest. And that's the core of capitalist theory. All human beings are driven by self-interest. It's making all human beings as a selfish being, because everything is done because of the self-interest. And that's why we've created the whole world, a selfish world. As if we are fitted with glasses with dollar signs. We don't see anything else but the dollar. I said, this is a misinterpretation of human being. Real human beings that I see around me are not 100% selfish. They're all selfish and selfless at the same time. So it's a question of how much selfishness you have and how much selflessness you have. Why can't the economics introduce another business on the basis of selflessness? They have introduced one, forget the other. Dismiss the whole thing. So I said, no, this is a very important part of us, selflessness. We can create a business on the basis of that. I said, that's what I have done, called social business. It's a non-dividend company to solve human problems. I said, if we introduce this part, suddenly economics become a different kind of thing. Everything can be solved now. All the creative power of human beings can be brought into action in a sustainable way, and you continue to expand, continue to do this. This idea now is spreading around the world. Many big companies are getting interested to create social business alongside. So that's the story that appeals to me, that I enjoy doing that. And another problem came in my work as Grameen Bank grew. We saw the children in Grameen families. I looked at the parents, the mother, because mother is our borrower. She's totally literate. Of the 9 million borrowers that I'm talking about, almost all of them are illiterate, cannot read, cannot write. But early on, we decided the children in Grameen families will not repeat the fate of their parents so far as education is concerned. We'll send every child into school. And we took it as our responsibility, Grameen Bank's responsibility, to make sure their children go to school. And it's a very elaborate program we did. We did education loans, we did the scholarships, and so on, so that nobody is missed. It's our responsibility to make sure children stay in school. As a result, we have a whole generation coming out of Grameen families, of 9 million families. You can imagine how many million children, to make sure they go to school and keep that. Then it created a new problem for us. When they come out of school, they blame me. No job. Why did you send us to school? We worked hard, but there's nothing for us. And I thought for a while, why is it happening? Then I take my turn to them. I said, why are you looking for a job? Did your teacher tell you to have a job? Or your book told you to have a job? I said, whoever told you, forget it. Always remember, job is an obsolete idea. It doesn't belong to human beings. It was done mistakenly by the economic theoreticians to say all human beings have to find jobs. I said that is absolutely wrong interpretation of human beings. Human beings are independent persons. They are entrepreneurs. They're not job seekers. You tell yourself again and again to put into your head, drill into your head, that I'm not a job seeker, I'm a job creator. I'm an entrepreneur. And look at the world as an entrepreneur, not as a job seeker. As a job seeker, you feel small. You see little things. As a job creator, you feel big. And you feel tall. And feel that. They keep saying, no, I don't know anything about jobs, anything about business. We are always told that we have to find a job. When I pass the exam, I get the degree, I get a job. I said, no, that's not what's happening. I said, how come your mother, who is an illiterate woman, who joined Grameen Bank 20 years, 25 years back, had the courage to stand up, take a loan of $25, $30 to start a business? And ever since, last 25 years, she's taking this loan again and again, expanding her business, and that's where you're born. Now you're telling me that your school never taught you how to start a business. That's why you cannot do a business. Who taught your mother? You know what happened to your mother and you? I said, your mother is a natural human being. She didn't worry about it. She just responded as the facilities offered. She said, this is what I do. And she didn't worry who taught me business, how to do a business plan. She didn't worry about that. She said, if you give me the money, I raise chicken, I sell the eggs, and give it back, money give it back to you. She saw it in a very simple way, in a logical, practical way. Now your education has contaminated your mind. You see things in a very different way, in a wrong way. So I said, why don't you go back to your mother, get rid of all the things learned in the school, be a normal human being, genuine human being, and see how a human being addresses his life or her life. Now, they are coming with their business ideas and so on. We create a social business venture capital fund, and we tell them that as you come with business plan, we invest in your business. We become your partner. And they like it. And we say, when you give us the money back, when you become successful and you return the money, you become 100% owner of the business. I give all the shares back to you. It's not my share. I'm not here to own your share, and I'm not interested in your profit. Profit stays with you, because we are social business. Our job is to solve your problem. Now, thousands and thousands of young people come with business ideas, and we keep on investing. I see no problem with that. Nobody says that I don't have a business idea. If you don't have a business idea, why don't you go and talk to your friends? They have lots of business idea. They're already doing business. And that's it. See, I see the damaging thing the theory has done, put it into a category of job seeker, rather than what we normally are as a human being. I said, entrepreneurship is in our DNA. That's how we lived on this planet. When we came to this planet, spread around the planet, we are not sending job applications to anybody. When we are in the caves, we are not sending job application from cave number 5 to cave number 10. We didn't. We just took care of ourselves. And that's our history, that's our blood. And suddenly we have to now say we have to work for somebody else. And what it has done, not only individuals lost their creative capacity. I said job is the end of creativity. A human being is packed with unlimited creative power, every single human being. Now job, what this does, job wants to fit you into a little slot. And that little slot forces you to surrender all your creative capacity because you have no use for them. They use only the part they need, the job needs, that's all. And that's what you become at the end of your life. You grow in the slot, and that's the life that you live. I said, no, human life is much bigger than that. Once you become an entrepreneur, you look at the world and see what you can do. Now, the businesses and everybody that said, okay, how do we do that? This is it. So we see the problem of unemployment, problem of housing, problem of old age, problem of healthcare. Every one of them is addressed with a social business way and so on. So this is the way the whole idea is a basically flaw in our thinking process, made the world in the wrong way. I said, if our thinking process has made the wrong way, we have to undo this thinking process and do new process. I tell the story of Grameen Bank in one way. People ask me, what is the best thing that happened with you that you could create this bank? I said, best thing that happened to me, I never took a course in banking. And a very simple reason. Now, the reason I explained. I said, if I had taken banking courses, I could not start Grameen Bank. Why? Because I'll be always told by my textbook in my brain, you do it this way. I said, and I follow that, and I'll become the conventional bank, because that's the banking theory that I'll be teaching. Luckily, I never had the course. So I could do anything I want. And in the process of it, I have done is a bank which you look from the conventional banking side, it looks so funny. Because everything we do is just the opposite of what conventional banks do. They go to the rich, we go to the poor. They go to men, we go to women. They go to the city, we go to the village. They want collateral, we say forget about collateral. Banks are owned by rich people. Grameen Bank is owned by poor people because borrowers of Grameen Bank are the owners of the bank. So you see, our basic principle at the very beginning that we adopted, people should not come to bank should go to people. And that's the principle we follow everywhere in the world. People don't have to come to our bank. It's our duty to go to you. When we run the bank for 9 million borrowers in Bangladesh, in 80,000 villages, we meet all these 9 million borrowers in 80,000 villages within 5 days, with the working days. And we deliver the service with them, continue to work. We know their children, we know their neighbors, we know everybody. They know us, we know them. And that's how the bank is. So we have undone everything. I said, if you want to change the banking system, I was explaining about banking, the way you don't like it because they go towards the top, you want to go to the bottom. So you have to reverse everything. So Grameen Bank became almost like a reverse bank, that you do things in the reverse way. If our world is moving in the wrong direction, if you want to correct it, you have to do the reverse thing. Like the whole world, all the wealth of the world is concentrated in few hands. 1% of the population of the entire world owns 99% of the wealth of the world. Can you imagine what kind of economic system is that? 99% of the world population own less than 1% of the total wealth of the world. And that's what we pride about our capitalist system. And this is getting worse. It's a huge mushroom of wealth on the top, getting bigger and bigger, owned by fewer and fewer. The stem of the mushroom is becoming thinner and thinner, which is representing the wealth of the 99.9% of the wealth of the world, 99.9% population, owning less than 1% of the wealth. That's becoming thinner. And it's going to be in an explosive situation because if it continues, people will get so frustrated. Anger will accumulate so much that we'll have total chaos in the world. So I said, before we get to that, we have to undo that system. Instead of resources of the wealth going top, it should be brought back so that it can be shared by everybody that we have. And that's the challenge we have to face. And we have ways how to do that. That's a discussion that I made in the book. And we'll be very happy to discuss all those issues. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Changing lives and changing the world one creative idea at a time. Thank you so very much, Professor Yunus, for that very insightful and inspiring presentation. I'm sure that you, like me, have much to contemplate and aspire towards as a result of what we've just heard. And I'm sure you too will have many burning questions. I'd like now to welcome Mr. Rob De Monte to the stage so that we can begin our question and answer session. Not only is Rob the current chair of the Adelaide Thinker in Residence program on social capital, he is also a member of the Australian Advisory Board on Impact Investing. In addition, he is a professional company director and serves on boards for the Botanic Gardens and State Herbarium of South Australia, RSPCA South Australia, the Australian Centre for Social Innovation, Australian Grain Technologies, and GP Partners Australia. Rob is currently the Disability Industry and Market Development Coordinator General for South Australia, charged with helping the disability sector make the most of the NDIS. He has been a management consultant and design thinker for more than 35 years for clients in the public, private and not-for-profit sectors in Australia and beyond. Rob is a passionate South Australian seeking to improve the economic and social well-being of this state and its people, and is ideally placed to facilitate this evening's discussion. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful speech. That was terrific. I had the great privilege of reading the book, and a lot of the themes that you spoke about came through. I'd just like to take a few moments just to ask a few questions related to the book, more specifically. We'll elaborate on a few of those, and then have the great opportunity for people in the audience to ask questions. There'll be a roving mic for that. You touched on capitalism, and in the book your words are that the world is in crisis and capitalism is at the root cause of that. That is a really strong and bold statement, and I think we got the sense of that. But you have some really interesting terms in there, like the difference between capitalist man and real man, and I think you touched on that as well. So is that really the root cause of the problems that we have in the world?
Yeah, that's what I identified, that capitalism has given us a kind of direction which takes us to maximization of profit. So in all our life, we all try to maximize profit in various ways through businesses that we run. And I was just mentioning that as if we are fitted with the glasses with dollar sign, because you don't want to see anything else, just about the dollar. And what I suggest in the book, I said, instead of having one lens with the dollar sign, we're actually, we should be having the bifocal lens, with the one with the dollar sign, that I see myself, my interest, my protection and so on, which is a selfish interest to protect myself. At the same time, I have the vision of seeing the whole world, and I can make myself active in this whole world. Not sacrificing myself, but protecting myself. At the same time, I can do that. That capacity I have. So every human being can do money-making business and at the same time social business. Every business can do money-making business at the same time social business. If we do that, two things happen. One, all the problems of the world now get attention. Today, we left it to the government to solve all the problems. And no matter which government you're talking about, government is totally incapable of solving problems by itself, because it can only do things through its own machinery of bureaucracy. But it needs creative power of the people and continuous infusion of new ideas and new innovations to make it happen. And that's what the citizens have. So I said, if citizens get into the direction, then no problem will remain as it is anymore. So that's the thing. And we say, if you citizens take up this responsibility, not because it's imposed on you, because you have it inside of you. I'm saying this is an option for you. It's not that you have to do this. And I'm assuming that you have both. Simply capitalist system blocked out one. I'm releasing that part. See if you want to do that. If you want to do that, this will happen. And I said two things will happen. One is problems will get solved. Another thing, wealth concentration will slow down. Because if I'm not taking profit out of my business, to that extent, I'm not contributing to the wealth concentration, because I have no wealth. I'm only doing the wealth concentration to my profit-making business. So it will, if it is a big proportion, to that extent, wealth concentration will come down, and it will be spread. And that's the important thing for me.
Yes, and that statistic that you had in your book, you mentioned a different one, but in the book you talk about in 2017 it was measured that 8 people in the world have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the world's population. It's just an amazing statistic.
It's amazing. 8 people in the world today, in 2017, own more wealth. The bottom 8% or near 8%, 8 billion, bottom 4 billion, yes, almost 4 billion people in the planet. So it's a kind of a ridiculous thing to carry on and call it a system. I said, you don't need a system to do that. You throw in, it happens. Anybody can do that. If system means it's fair. And that's a system. It's totally unfair. You have 1,000 people here in this room, and you said, all the 1,000 people sitting on there, and nothing in here. If each one is representing wealth, they're all in one corner.
Yes.
Nobody's there. And that's the world today. 99% of the people have 1% of the total wealth of the world. And we say, oh, we are progressing, we are very fine with everybody. It's not globally, it's also nationally. You look at every nation, including Australia, figure out what percentage of wealth is owned by what percentage of population. You'll see the same thing. You go anywhere, you'll see the same thing. So that is something that we have to bring in front of us and question ourselves, is this the system we want? If we don't want that system, undo that system. Wherever we made mistakes. Correct the mistakes. And if you take mistakes out, and it will be civil. And that's what I'm saying, that I have proposed some correction. One correction is, I'm selfless and selfish at the same time. Then suddenly it changes completely. And I'm not a job seeker, I'm a job creator. And suddenly it creates. If we all become entrepreneurs, suppose we all become entrepreneurs, will there be wealth concentration? No, because we catch wealth by ourselves. How do they catch the wealth for the big rich people? Because we work for them, because we are job seekers. We work for them, and we make them make lots of money. So we are actually mercenaries for them. If we do not become mercenaries, if we catch ourselves our wealth, then wealth will not be a mushroom on top. It will be distributed to everybody. That's the point, I guess.
Yes, very good. The book has many wonderful examples of social businesses, ones that you've started, other examples as well. Many examples. It's just a wonderful read from that point of view. This is going to be a tough question, but in the areas of poverty, unemployment and carbon emissions, do you have a favourite case study or story in each of those that you think is just amazing, maybe from its impact or from the level of innovation or where it's come from? Do you have a favourite?
Well, just quickly, 3 examples from that. One, I talked about the microcredit Grameen Bank, Bangladesh. Bangladesh Grameen Bank has 9 million, but there are many NGOs in Bangladesh who do the microcredit. Together, we have almost doubled that number. When Millennium Development Goal was announced and adopted in 2000 in the United Nations, the number 1 goal was set as reducing poverty by half by 2015. People laughed around the world. It was impossible to reduce it by such a giant of a problem. And it took time to sip in your mind to take it seriously. Right from the beginning, because this is what we do, we took it seriously because I'm the one always saying poverty should belong to the Poverty Museum, not in civilized human society. It doesn't belong to human society. So I thought this is the right decision to make, reduce it by certain date, 2015. And Bangladesh achieved that goal, number 1, among many other goals. Bangladesh achieved number 1 because this is very first interesting. Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries, a heavy concentration of poverty, below poverty level population is more than half of the country. We achieved it by June of 2013, 2.5 years before 2015 December. So it happened, because this is a concrete thing, and you say, is microcredit responsible for it? Maybe, maybe not. But who else that did it? We have to find out what happened in the whole economy for all world. Now, SDG goal, Sustainable Development Goal, number 1, is to reduce poverty by 0 by 2030. And we see the way our poverty declined over time and the rate at which percentage of population getting out of poverty. If you project this as it is now, without changing, becoming faster or anything, just at the same speed, we see we achieved 0 poverty before 2030. So, and I said, look, time is coming. Let's get ready to create that poverty museum. Because the day we'll achieve that 0 poverty before 2030, and we'll have an advertisement in the newspaper and an ad in the newspaper, full page ad, that if you can find one poor person in Bangladesh, $1 million award. And nobody can claim that because nobody will find one.
Right.
And then we'll build a museum.
Yes.
Say, look, we have done that. We've completed that. So it's possible. This is one way. Thing. The way they move out, you go by samples, small number, or you just look at the way that income has increased, assets have increased, and so on. This is a population you can see, watch in everyday way, recorded history of that, what happened. On the net carbon emission, this is the goal set by Paris Agreement. Date has not been fixed, but they are debating on whether it will be 2040 or 2050 to bring zero net carbon emission by that date. And we are creating social business after social, I have given an example, to make this happen. So sure, we are talking about cities becoming carbon neutral, country becoming carbon neutral, such and such date. Already announcements are coming. So this is, the fact that it can be done is not, I'm not talking about it. People who are doing that, they are declaring. So that's also happened. But the zero unemployment, I see, this is the simplest way I say, the problem of unemployment is created by the concept of employment. If we didn't have the concept of employment, the question of unemployment will not arise, because I'm not looking for a job. How can I be unemployed? Because I'm busy doing things. If every human being grew up that you are an entrepreneur, if you tell our children in home, they look, as you grow up, this is what you're going to be. You can change the world. You can be entrepreneur. Your job is to seek innovative ways of doing things to take care of yourself and take care of the planet, and this is what you do. And in school, they will be teaching you there are two options. You can start working for somebody. If you do, this is the route you take. Or you can be on your own. You create businesses of your own and do that. And this is the way it's done. And this is the support system that comes to you. As you are ready, come with the business plan. There's an investor waiting for you. There'll be investor coming to your campus every week, telling you how facilities they give as soon as you have a business idea. I said, look, one advantage of starting a business, you don't have to finish your school to start a business. But to get a job, you have to finish your school, because you need a piece of paper to present that, hey, I'm good, I'm qualified. And that's the only use you got. But in the case of business, you can be in school at the same time you run your business. Because business is not waiting for your degrees or grades or anything. Your success is what you do. And that's an advantage. You can do school as much as you want, as less as you want, but you want someone starting business while you are still in high school. Do that and continue, grow with it. So that's the kind of thing. In that scenario, I don't see unemployment. I make a joke by saying that, I said, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, in a classroom, they're discussing, there used to be much youth unemployment in 2018 and in the early years of 2000. There are 50% youth unemployment in Spain, there are 40% youth unemployment in Italy, and so on and so forth. Every country has youth unemployment. And another kid looks at it, what is unemployment? That you don't have a job. What is a job? Job means you have to work for somebody. Why do you work for somebody? Oh, then why is he sitting around, not finding a job? Because he doesn't have a job. That's why he's sitting around. Is he sick? No, he's not sick. Is he incapable of doing things? No, he's fit. He's a very enterprising person. Then why is he sitting around? Why does he do something himself? It will sound ridiculous that somebody sit idle, not doing anything, fully capable young person, with all the energy, all the capability, all the technology in his command, doing nothing, calling himself unemployed. As if unemployment is a kind of spell in the Harry Potter story.
Yes.
You put a spell and you cannot move.
Yes. Yes.
So theory has put a spell on us.
Yes.
That's why we can unemployed and incapable.
Yes. Very true. In Australia, we're moving to the National Disability Insurance Scheme, $22 billion of social reform. At the heart of it is money in the hands of individuals, and at the heart of it is absolutely garnering their capacity to contribute. And I think we've got a $22 billion social businesses that are going to be created in Australia going forward, which is very exciting. In your book, you talk about the mega powers for transforming the world. And you touch on youth, technology, good governance and human rights as the three mega powers. Perhaps just briefly your thoughts around those three.
I put a lot of importance in the youth compared to any
the
others.
other two,
These
yes.
are all important mega powers, but the youth is the most important one. For two reasons I mentioned. That young people are very powerful, this generation of young people, because of the technology in their hand. And I tell them that you are the most powerful generation in the entire human history. No other generation has so much power at their disposal as you have. Even not your immediate generation didn't have that capacity, but you have that. And if you have to feel that you have the power. I said, when we sit together with the young people, old people, all kinds of people together, you look like just like another human being. But you are really a superhuman being. You're Superman and Superwoman. I said, feel like a Superman, Superwoman. And then ask yourself, now that I'm a superhuman being, what use I make of the superpower? That's your target. But I come to school, I come to college, whatever education institution, they have not changed. The education institution is still teaching them as normal human being. But the class you have in front of you is a superhuman being. That mismatch is cutting them down. They don't realize that they're superhuman being. I said, you have to first have to feel that you are a genie. You can do anything you want. Simply your wish, what I want to do. So your learning process is all about not how to do, what should I do? Once you figure out what you should do, you'll figure out how to do it. I said, but in doing that, probably you'll not do the old way. If you go the old way, you end up with the old destination. If you want to build a new destination, new world for you, you have to build new roads. That's why you're a superhuman being. You'll be building your new roads and your new world. That's the challenge. Don't get contaminated with the world thoughts. Old thoughts will keep you down. Free yourself from the old thoughts. And the second thing I particularly like the young people is still their mind is uncontaminated. They're still fresh, still think in a new way. Older one already got mindset is already formed. It's very difficult to undo that. Young people, luckily, has not gone through that process yet. So this is the best time to get to them and say, this is your world. You can figure out. You don't have to learn from anybody else. You can figure out how to get there, what to do.
I agree. Final question, then we'll open it up to the floor. You indicate that the hardest part about building a new economic system is building up the initial momentum behind the change. So it's getting some momentum into that change. Do you think we're at the tipping point yet? When is the tipping point from a global perspective that we will see your thoughts, your aspirations, we will see that continue, that momentum?
It's all about us figuring it out, what we want from our life. It's not what I want or you want, it's my decision. We don't have to impose it from outside. Another thing that I try to bring out attention in the book, that the entire education system, we teach our young people all kinds of subjects. Physics, chemistry, biology, history, accounting, you name it, they used to do that. I said, most important thing for me, what I feel is one common theme for all students to learn, who I am. Who am I? That's a basic question. What is it that I am supposed to do? What is for me? What is the future I see for myself? What role I should play in the world? I'll be here for a very short period. No matter how you do it, still it's a short period. And within that short period, I have to achieve something. And what is it I'm going to achieve? Taking care of myself doesn't take much time. I mentioned in the book, in that context, about retirement. I said, this is a funny word, retirement.
Yes, should be banned.
Yeah, I said, the word retirement should be retired. It shouldn't belong. Because somehow capitalist world figured out, you work for somebody, so they figured out after 60, after 65, after 68, whatever date they've decided, you are worthless, you are no good. So when you have come to that age, you have to leave. I'll take care of you, give you a pension and so on, but you don't need you. So as the date approaches, the person who is approaching the date feels very nervous. Soon I'll be useless. And if I think about my retired life, I go around the world, I enjoy myself, and you do it once or twice, and you don't know what else to do. I said, that's a very shameful thing for people to go through, that to feel terrorized by this word, retirement. I said, human beings never retire. They're active until the last breath. That's what human being is all about. Not to draw a line and say, I retire, I don't do anything, I'm useless. I said, I see life as a two-phase kind of thing. In phase one, I take my responsibility to take care of myself and so on, getting a job, starting my business, whatever I do. This is something they organize. And this is the preliminary thing. I'm waiting for my phase two with excitement. I call the phase two as the freedom phase of my life. I don't have any obligation. I'm a free person. I do anything I want, because all the things are done in my phase one, and I can draw the line when I'm at 35. After 35, I'm in phase two. I do everything that I wanted. That's what I'm preparing for. Or 40, or 45. You decide your
20.
own. Or 20, whatever you want.
Yes.
That I can start my life for the rest of the world. That's my job. That's my assignment to myself, that this is what I do. And that's what every human being is fit for. And that's an excitement phase, that yes, I made a mark. I put my signature on this planet. This is what I did when I was there. You should be proud of yourself, because you are packed with that capacity. Don't waste that capacity. It will be all gone if you don't use that. So that is the issue that I raise with the young people and the retirement and so on.
Yes, very inspiring. So we're going to open it up to the floor. There is a roving microphone on both stairs. So a show of hands. There's one in the middle here.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on systems of taxation and regulation, not only by governments in nation states, but international entities such as the IMF?
Well, taxation and things like that come for two reasons. One reason is that you want an entity which will be providing all the solutions to your problems. Meaning the government. You need a government to impose the rule of law, to impose or bring services, power and sanitation, water, or whatever you have. So you have to keep that machine running. So tax is imposed. So it will be needed for that purpose anyway. But if citizens keep doing the work, you don't need the government who has to do everything. If the citizens do half of it already, so you pay you pay less taxes than before. So this is one between you and the government and so on. I was giving an example of one city that became very fascinated by the idea of social business. It's a German city, Wiesbaden. The mayor got very excited with the social business. He announced his city as the social business city. He said, we spend more than €1 billion every year. This is our budget, more than €1 billion for this city. And bulk of it, 65% of this billion euro goes into taking care of the unemployed, taking care of the welfare, taking care of the old age, taking care of the single mother, taking care of the refugees, taking care of the immigrants. 65% of this money is given as a transfer payment. Just write checks and give it to them. We have very little to do with it. Only 35% we can use. That goes into salary, maintenance, and all the offices. Only very little left to do something new. I like the social business idea, he said. That's why we'll become social business. We have some 3,000 businesses in our city. Now I'm sitting down with every business. Every business has to start a social business on the side, solving a tiny little problem they want to solve. Take 3 refugees to do something, 3 immigrants to do something else. Old people, 5 old people I can take care as a business, as a social business. I take welfare people out of welfare by creating entrepreneurship for them. So everybody will come out with creative ideas to do that. I'm not imposing it. They will do it as a fun thing that they do. They solve the problem of the city. And that will create less pressure on the government to tax you again and again, to make more. We'll rather use the tax money, if you want to give the tax money, to build up things that we never did before. So that way. So this is an idea about the tax. Another reason for tax, argument for tax, the rich people are getting richer. They should pay higher taxes so that this can be made available to the other people, some redistribution. I said that will never happen. That will happen in a token way, in a politically kind of as a kind of political gimmick to make it. When you are rich, when you control 99% of the wealth, meaning you are the rich people, 99% of the wealth, you not only you control the wealth, you control the government, you control the politics, you control the media, you control everything. So nobody will mess around with you to give you impose taxes. When Donald Trump came into power, he said many things about the people losing jobs and so on and so forth. And when it came to taxes, what did he do? He just cut the taxes for the rich people. You'll be expecting that they will be paying more taxes now. You want to help the poor people. He did the opposite. He did the tax cut for the rich people. So this is how the politics goes. So the taxation is, although it is justified as a distribution, but really you don't do justification. It's just a kind of a token amount that you do.
Thank you. Over here.
What's your take on the issue of arm race? And there is a lot of funding that goes into the military now. People have this FDR idea of fear of unknown that impacts on people migrating.
Funding going for what?
Sorry, can you just... Military. Funding,
Military,
funding
okay.
the military.
Oh, okay, military. Yeah, that's waste of money. We are afraid of each other so much. You have to keep on pushing money. And they become an industry by itself, create fear in you so that they spend more money for them. See? And a bulk of the money goes into it. It continues, it's a fear factor. And like I was giving the example of a case of wealth concentration, 99% concentrated in 1% people. Where do the 1% people live? Those who control the 99% of the wealth. We should be studying that. My guess, to whatever information that I see, in about half a dozen countries of the world. So half a dozen countries, these 1% people live who controls the 99% of the wealth. And the rest of the world, after you take these 6 countries out, the rest of the world together owns 1% or less than 1% of the wealth. And then when large number of people coming from North Africa and Asia and trying to go to Europe, you say, why are they coming here? Stop them. They're coming here because all the wealth is here. What can I do? You blocked it up. We don't get anything there. So it will continue, it will get worse. In order to protect from each other, everybody is saying, create boundary wall. Now, Britain is moving out of Brexit, moving out of the European Union through Brexit. What was the argument? These East Europeans are coming, taking our jobs. Our poor are getting poorer because they cannot get the job, the competition with the East European. And why they come? Because we are in the European Union. They are entitled to come. They can take job anywhere they want. How do we protect our poor people? Let's get out of the European Union and make sure other immigrants don't come as easily as they did before, so that our poor people are not bothered by outside poor people. So this kind of fear factor generates all these political reactions, which is a wrong reaction. Poor people are not getting, not because of the Europeans, East Europeans, it's because of concentration of the wealth moving up. It's not staying down, and that's what's happening. And same logic was applied in the Donald Trump argument. He said, build a wall. We don't want the Mexicans to come in. and get all the immigrants get out of the country, make difficulty for other people. I said, go ahead, do that. You did the Brexit, you did the wall. Now soon you'll be applying the same logic within our own country. He said, poor people from next state should not come to our state because they are taking our jobs. Because you'll be busy protecting each other's poor people. In the name of protecting poor people, you are creating more poverty. This is the whole problem. And there's the same logic comes into confrontational situation that people have to build the wall and so on. If we had this interpretation of human being, which is different than what the economic system has done, world relationship will be different. And I conclude the book by saying, this is a greed-based civilization that we built. The core of the civilization here that we built is greed. I said, we need to transit from the greed-based civilization to a new civilization based on human values of empathy and fellow feeling. And that's possible the moment you reorganize all the things that I'm talking about. And that's why I depend on the young people. My book is dedicated to the young people who are committed to create a new civilization. Because no less than new civilization can protect us. This is the path that you have to avoid. You have to get out and create the world of the imagination of the world of fellow. There you'll not military expenditure of the kind that you are talking about.
Over here, gentleman with the blue shirt. I think it's hard to see with the lights. I think we will only have time for one or more to. Last question. Last question. I'm getting told. This is the last one.
Professor Yunus, thank you very much. It's a privilege and an honor to listen to your speech. I come from an economic development professional background, and I've seen the models you developed in action, contributing significantly to poverty alleviation. At the same time, I've seen microfinance institutions using it, and of course a developed version of it, as a profit-making machine, where they focus less on the social cause and focus more on the money-making and profit-making aspect of it. And obviously, capitalism has picked up somewhere that this is a gold mine and starting capitalizing on it, and they created a whole trend. What do you think can be done to reverse that effect and go back to the base and to the vision that you created at the first place? Thank you.
First of all, I'm ashamed of them, the way they do that thing. You develop a medicine to cure people, but somebody used this medicine to kill people, same medicine. That's what exactly happened in case of microcredit. We created microcredit as a social business. We didn't want to make money out of it. As I was explaining to you, the Grameen Bank is owned by the borrower themselves. So I didn't want to become the owner of the bank. I could have, because I created the bank, but that's not my intention. I made the borrowers the owners of the bank. And the intention was to help poor people get out of poverty. That's what our total focus was. That's why we got into education, we wanted the healthcare, so that as soon as possible they come out of the poverty trap that they're sucked into. Some people take the methodology of Grameen Bank, methodology of microcredit. They found out, my God, this is a good way to make money. That their dollar signs in their eyes started sparkling. Let's do that. And that's what I've done. Now, microcredit becomes so abused word. Even the loan sharks call themselves microcredit. You don't know what. I say, for God's sake, let's figure out which is the right microcredit and which is the wrong microcredit. We condemn the wrong microcredit because they are just abusing the whole idea of microcredit. And the respectability microcredit has gathered around the world, that yes, it works for people. They are using that respectability to make themselves rich, which is a completely different thing that it was intended for. So it's an abuse of the one that we have to be very careful. It will be careful.